I'm George Caras, and I'm here to give you good news for all of those creative drummers out there that need an instrument that will speak your heart.
Yes, George, good to see you today, man. Thank you for stopping by the shop. So, what do you got to tell the people?
Well, I wanted to let you know that I've investigated the bandwidth of the Spinelli Drums, and it's much wider than the bandwidth of any other drum manufacturer because all the lugs are free-floating lugs, and that means that there is no dampening on the shell. The shell is where the tone comes from, and when you hit a shell that is free, you have greater control between pianissimo and triple forte. Those of you that really understand making accents and bringing certain strokes that stand out, you want the Spinelli drum. And here's Johnny.
How you doing? I'm John Spinelli with Spinelli Drums, talking here with George. I've known George for many, many years from working in retail, and we've talked drums endless hours, countless hours, over and over about the physics, the sound, and we've really... George used to build drums. He built drums back in the day because he wanted a kit that worked for him, and so he does know a lot about drums, being in the medical field. He's got science background, and when we just started talking, we just gelled. It just was amazing. He's got great ear for tone, and what George was mentioning earlier about the sound, the dynamic range of Spinelli drums being the free floating with our patented free floating lug, really does make a difference to me, definitely, and the people like George. There's times I listen to videotapes, people on a camera, and you can really hear the expressive people that film with their cell phone cameras, and they you can really hear how expressive the drums are. From playing light dynamics, they still project, to playing loud. It is not an overbearing loud. It's just a fuller sound. And George has a lot of experience with that.
That way you can adjust yourself for the room. Every time you play a band job, the situation is completely different, and that makes a big difference in the sound and projection of your drum kit. However, if you've got less dampening, and I always like to use the example of hitting a cymbal without touching it, and then taking your finger and your thumb and pressing against the cymbal and getting a clunk instead of a splash with a long sustain. That's exactly what happens with a Spinelli drum. You get a long sustain if you want it. It depends on what type of a head that you want to use. You can easily loosen the drum head and get a fat rock and roll sound, or bring them up tight and get a classic straight ahead jazz or bebop sound. Same drum kit. But the one thing that I enjoyed taking them to different band jobs is the fact that I could set up a lot easier. The legs just swing out, and they're not attached to the bass drums. The legs on the floor tom, you just match the number, so if you've got a tilted floor tom, it's already stays tilted. All you got to do is find the number, and you have your floor tom upside down. You look for your number, and in the slot you go. All of the hardware makes it easier to carry around because it's made out of aluminum. And you can say aluminum backwards, which is Mooney Moolah. However, when you're carrying aluminum instead of steel, one time I ordered a bass drum straight from the factory, and it came just the shell. I had to screw in all of the lugs that came in a bag, and I lifted up the bag with all the hardware on this bass drum, and I thought, oh my God, I gotta carry all this stuff around. You know, all I was looking for was the bass drum, but you'd be surprised how lightweight these drums are and how much louder they're gonna be than any drum that you're playing now. However, the big advantage is it still has a voice in a very quiet tone. So if somebody in the band tells you, or the audience tells you, turn the drums down, all you got to do is have a little bit of a lighter touch, and that does it. You don't have to change anything. The other things that I really liked about is setting up with the rack toms. They just slide right into
on a post. It's our guide and slide tom mount, patented.
Thank you. And I enjoyed all of that. Easy setup, easy breakdown. I was just telling John just a few minutes ago that the way I have the throw off on his throw off, I can just click it just a little bit this way and get a wet, very wet snare drum sound, or click it a little bit this way. So I can change the whole texture of the next tune just by a little click, and I'm ready to go without futzing around with a bunch of stuff. Now, you can get a pitch bend that is phenomenal. Just bring down one of your lugs. However, they sing, whether it's a low flat sound or a higher pitched sound, and project in any size room without
amplification
at all.
Yeah.
It makes the band job much more pleasant to play, saves your energy for the performance itself, and you can really be creative in working with vocals as far as accents and things of that nature, because the drums are quick. They've got a high speed because there isn't any muffling, and that allows you to hit it not as hard and still get a fast projection of the sound wave. However, I've never heard any drum like Spinelli Drums blending with either a 32-piece orchestra. I've played with some big band like Benny Goodman type, or rock and roll, retro rock, Latin, whatever that you're looking for. These drums have punch. However, they also have a tone that you don't have unless you have Spinelli Drums.
Thank you, George. For those of you not familiar with Spinelli Drums and some of our features, let me run through them. George did talk about them, but if you're not familiar with them, let me explain how they work. So, overall sound, what George was talking about, how it resonates, it's full sounding, the way it projects,
The feel, the rebound.
Yes.
It makes you faster. If you think you're fast now, play a Spinelli drum.
Yeah. So that is due to our patented NV lug. Um, Single tension tuning. You only tune it from the top. With this lug, it creates it does several things. Like George mentioned, the drum shell is uninhibited, so it will resonate at the frequency of the drum shell that is not doesn't have hardware on it. Hardware does mute the drum shell itself, and when George was talking about not having the drum shell muted. So when you attach things to any surface, it adds mass, which is true, but it will stop it from resonating, like when he talked about the cymbal. When you put your fingers on a cymbal and you hit it. So it's more extreme on a cymbal than a drum shell, but on a drum shell, a 12-inch tom, you're going to have 6 lugs on top, 6 lugs on the bottom. So it's going to be muted in 12 separate points. And those 12 points, when you tighten the drum head, are going to add tension on those 12 points, and they're not always evenly tensioned. So our patented NV lug, single tension lug, allows the drum shell to resonate at its fullest without being inhibited, only being touched by the top and bottom head. So that's one thing about those lugs. The second thing is, to get the most resonant sound, the fullest sound, you need 2 equal weight drum heads tuned equally, top and bottom. So I like to call it relative tuning. So if one lug is tighter than the other, the top and bottom head are going to have that same amount of tension in that same spot, so that the head, if it is out of tune with itself or out of tension with itself, it's going to be the same on the bottom, so they're going to react very similar to each other. So when they're more evenly tensioned, again, that's going to give you the full resonance of the shell, because both heads are going to be moving at the same frequency when they're the same weight. Now, a lot of people like a thinner head on the bottom, which is fine, or more tension on the bottom. You just use a thinner head on the bottom. You could use a 2-ply head on top, single-ply head on the bottom. You can use 2 different weights. You can use a coated head on top. It's going to add a little more mass on the top than the bottom, so the pitches are going to be slightly different, even if it's the same weight. But that gives you a super full sound. Engineers love this. They love it. I've had several guys in the studio say, after just doing a line check, you've saved me a couple of hours. It would have taken me 2 to 3 hours to get where we are right now on the drum tones. The sound is super easy. The bass drums sound amazing. The snare drums are so sensitive, and you can get so many different sounds out of them.
These drums were carefully engineered and designed using sound physics. I have a license with the United States in sound physics and the projection of sound. And we started with the idea that the major portion of tone comes from the shell. All of these ideas have been carefully calculated with an experience that only John has. John has been here in Clearwater the foremost drummer that is being asked to play. He's playing what, 4 or 5 times a week? Yeah. And he's been doing that, what, 50 years, something like that?
A long time.
Yeah, a long time. And by that time, you get to know what is working and what is a struggle or a better solution that needs to be. And so I come along with these ultrasound concepts, and John and I had the same conclusions with everything. I'm hitting it from a physics standpoint, and he's hitting it with on the road experience. I have great simile between the musical instrument that John created and the Stradivarius violin. In both cases, the tone is, why would you buy an instrument if you're that good? Why would you buy an instrument that has the greatest tone?
Yeah, there's all drum companies make great sounding drums, no doubt about that. Ours just have a different approach, and it's been proven that people enjoy it. They really like it. They've experienced things that they haven't experienced before. They sit behind the kit and they play it, and that's the drum sound they hear in their head. You know,
it's made me a better drummer.
Oh, well,
it really has.
Thank you.
As soon as I got him home, I tried out everything that I know how to do in the last 50 years, and I was astounded that I had to relearn how to approach the drum. We're used to having a certain velocity on our left hand hitting that snare drum, and you do that to a John Spinelli snare drum, and you're going to be shocked at how loud that really is. So you're going to back off. If you're backing off, you're saving energy to get through 4 hours of playing. So I found that the rebound and the easy setup and carrying the drums and breaking down to the drums made the whole drumming experience way more exciting and enjoyable. More pleasure I was getting out of the Spinelli kit. And John knows I have bought a lot of good quality brand names from John before this was ever invented. My only chagrin is that he didn't come up with the idea 25 years ago, you know. But through the years, Rogers, all different, Gretsch, wonderful sounding drums, but none had the bandwidth and the tone and the easy setup, easy breakdown of Spinelli drums.
Well, thank you, George. I remember because George knew I built drums, was working here and working hard at it and building drums, and we talked about it over the years. It was a few years before George actually came to the shop. And I don't know if you remember, but when you came here that first time and you actually played the drums and you said, "John, I know you said they sounded good, but you didn't tell me they sounded this good."
Yeah, that. You know, you have to experience it. You're watching a videotape right now, and you're not feeling what we both have felt by performing with this instrument. You will be a better performer. Get yourself some Spinelli drums and get that kit out there in the public and play it.
George, thank you. That was awesome.
My pleasure.
We'll see you soon. Bye.
Bye. Okay, let's go to lunch.
All right.